It's Rebecca Black's favorite day of the week. It's Friday. Also, my favorite day of the week. We got CJ, we got Kyle. I'm Dan. And CJ, I don't know if you can answer this question, but a casual baseball fan, if you ask them right now, it's April 24th, 2026.
Hmm.
You said, who's the best team in Major League Baseball right now? Most people would say, oh, I know, it's the Dodgers. But no, they would be incorrect, my friend.
Yeah, it all depends on how you look at it, right? So if you're looking at total wins, your answer,
No,
of
we're
course,
winning
right now.
percentage.
Oh, winning percentage. Sorry, my bad. Winning percentage. We'll give you the Atlanta Braves. So
Yeah,
it's been
see?
a nice.
And you cover that team.
It's a nice start to the season.
We call it the
them,
CJ effect here in Canada.
I appreciate it. Well, last year they didn't feel that effect at all, so I don't know what to make of it. After they started the season 0-7, and unfortunately, you really never recovered the entire year. So it's been a nice start to the year, even those couple of guys that are down right now, and we're thrilled here in Atlanta. And it's a weird one, man. Like, it's not only that they're playing well, it's that the two biggest threats in that division are playing terribly. I mean, the Mets finally won a second game in a row after a 12-game losing streak. I believe the Phillies are up to, 9 in a row now that they have lost. They're a big mess. That's the part that is maybe equally as incredible when you look at the start of the season and what's happening in the NL East.
And your team has also had some closer issues because I believe Iglesias is moving to the DL, but you guys have someone to step in. I got to tell you, up here in Toronto, we're not entirely certain who the closer is at this point. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's got to be Varland, right?
Yep.
I mean, and I think when we talked about this a little bit last time, I'm still willing to have Rogers in there if you like the matchup better. If there's something about the matchup, this is a manager's dream. Not that Jeff Hoffman is struggling. That's not the dream. That's the nightmare part of it. But the other part of it is that you don't have to name a closer and you play it the way that you want to play it, and nobody's going to be upset about it, right? We went through an era for a long time, and it still exists to some degree, where there are some pitchers that have established themselves as closers, are only comfortable closing, only want the ninth inning, up by 3 or less, or if it's a tie game in certain situations at home, maybe where you have a chance to win it, then you go for it. And it's not ideal because it paints you in a corner sometimes. And so now I think for John Schneider, what the perfect situation is, you have Varland, you have Rogers, and Varland's obviously been excellent so far this year, hasn't allowed an earned run. He's punching out guys like crazy. He's your guy. You get the matchup. And then hopefully you get Jeff Hoffman back on track, but then don't slide him back into the closer role. Right, get him right, and now hopefully you have 3 weapons at the back end that you use at your discretion. This is what managers prefer. Like, as the save came along and we started getting some of the established dominant closers, it works out great when that guy's being dominant. When he's not and he's only comfortable in that role, it becomes a problem. So I don't want to call it position A because you wish Jeff Hoffman was pitching better, but I think it could end up being, if you get him right, a really good spot here for the Blue Jays.
I'm not sure if the Max Scherzer situation has turned into a problem, but I see it this way. Everyone was like, okay, we've seen the last of Max Scherzer at the end of last year. And then the Jays sign him. And I see it as you went and got the car detailed. And you're like, oh, this car feels brand new again. So started the year, everyone's feeling great. Now Scherzer's last 2 starts mix in a slight injury. And we're back to, could this be Max Scherzer's last start?
We'll see. I mean, obviously it depends on maybe Trey Yesavage and what you have coming off the IL, Jose Barrios, how far away that is. The thing with Max Scherzer, when you sit there and kind of dig in a little bit, it's kind of surprising that the thing you would get concerned about as the guy gets older is the fastball, right? And so as the fastball starts to come down, is that the pitch that's going to be problematic? And it really hasn't been nearly as much right now for Max Scherzer. So that's been a little bit of the surprise. What's been kind of corresponding to that is how hard his curveball has gotten hit. So far this year. That has actually been the bigger problem, and the lack of whiff on that curveball. The slider's been okay, same thing, lack of whiff. What you like to see guys do as they get a little bit older, as the fastball effectiveness comes down, is that you're disguising your fastball a little bit more, right? Maybe you're pitching backwards. Maybe you're flipping some breaking balls in there early, trying to finish guys with fastballs or using it as a setup pitch. But when you dig in and kind of look at the numbers here with Max Scherzer, the fastball's been fine. It's been those secondary pitches that haven't been nearly as consistent. So for me, it's about finding a little bit more effectiveness with the curveball, keeping that off the barrel, right? Because if you think about guys when it comes to off-speed pitches, whether it's your changeup, split, curveball, slider, whatever it is you're throwing, if it's not going to be a dominant swing and miss pitch, then it's got to be an off-the-barrel pitch, right? Where you're getting weaker contact, you're getting outs with that pitch. And that hasn't happened, man. The exit velocity against his curveball right now has been kind of astounding. At 96 miles an hour has been the average so far. So for me, that's the thing I think you keep an eye on, because his fastball has actually been surprisingly effective.
And he is going head to head with Gavin Williams tonight. That's a pretty tough assignment for him as well. So, what can the expectations be from this Jays team? He's just trying to keep them at bay, more or less, is he not?
Yeah, trying to keep him in the game, right? I think that's the big thing, right? At this point, when you look at Max Scherzer, what's the goal going into games? Give me a chance to win. Gavin Williams is a good pitcher and has been over the course of his career. And I kind of go back and forth on this one. It's like, how often are you really pitching against the other pitcher? You're not facing him. You're actually only facing the other team offensively. But the reality is, and I've heard good pitchers tell me this before, I'm just trying to outlast the other guy. Or I'm trying, when I'm out of the game, that my team still has a chance to beat that team. And I think it's a fair way to look at it. Certainly how you look at it in the postseason, but I think here, even early in the regular season, as the Jays are kind of playing from behind, you're looking for wins any way that you can get them. And so it becomes go as hard as you can, as long as you can, and keep your team in the game.
Does the name on the back of the jersey affect the plate approach? Because I know we're all human, and all athletes do say, I approach every bat the same. I approach every game the same. But in the back of your mind, you're not thinking, man, I'd love to tell the kids later in life, yeah, I took Scherzer deep.
Of course. I mean, absolutely. I mean, listen, we had a series the Braves did against the Phillies last weekend, and this kid, Felix Reyes, made his big league debut. And in his first at bat against Chris Sale, he falls behind 2-0, gets ahead 2-0. And the first strike he sees, he hits for a home run. Of course, that's a big deal to him, right? I mean, that's Chris Sale. This guy's probably going to be in the Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. So there is something to it, I think. Now, as you get a little bit older and you've been around, now you expect to do well against those guys. You understand the value of the matchup and how tough it's going to be. But yeah, it matters when you're facing some bigger name guys. I think it's a little bit more of a notch in the belt when you've had success against some of the bigger name guys. It's always fun to sit there and look at a guy like, say, like Vladdy, go in and dig in on some of the pitchers that he's been good against, which ones he's been bad against. You're going to see some really good names in there. You don't make it this long in the game. You don't get that kind of contract without that happening. Same thing with Max Scherzer. You might go look at the hitters that have had the most hits off of him in his career. You're going to see some guys that might surprise you a little bit. You're like, that guy? That was the guy you had trouble with? You're Max Scherzer. You're going to the Hall of Fame, but it's a real thing for guys.
And same when guys dug in against CJ Nitkowski.
So, yeah, when John Cangelosi hit that home run off me, one of the 9 career homers that he had, it was something I thought about a lot for sure. I was like, oh, wow. Okay.
And that really rolled off your tongue quickly, CJ. So you're clearly still thinking
it's
about
right
it,
here.
which I
it's
love.
right
I
here.
love that for you.
It's locked in.
I love that.
It's not going away.
So, I mean, this Jays team sits where they sit right now. They've climbed out of last place in the division. They're not terribly far off of first, and they have pitchers returning to the lineup soon. Who can we expect to see first?
Yeah, it sounds like maybe Trey Yesavage might need one more. It was a little bit concerning with the command. The stuff looks fine. And I know you don't want to necessarily judge swing and miss against minor league hitters, and we know how dominant he can be. But on the split and on the slider, the swing and miss has been really good. The 4 walks in his last one, there were some errors in that game, including some of his own, led to a higher pitch count, right? So we didn't have the gradual increase in pitch count that you want. And so I don't say that was concerning at all because it wasn't completely his fault, but the 4 walks certainly are. I think when you see that, when you see him not get to the innings number that you want to, like he did in his last one, right? I don't think he got through 3 innings with the 64 pitches because you got to be careful. I want to see one more just to be safe. And we know this. I mean, listen, we knew it coming into the season that you're going to be a little bit careful with his total innings anyway for this year. So as much as the Jays need him badly back in the rotation, I don't think you rush it with him, because what he did last year and even the way they treated him last year and brought him along slowly, and then you end up having this great postseason run and he's pitching maybe a little bit more than you want to, but you got to go for it in that spot because he clearly emerged as one of your top guys. You're still on that watch with him at this point in his career, especially now coming off an injury. There's a certain number you'd like to get to this year. I don't know what it is for the Jays to then have it as a jumping off point for next year. But you're not going to push it if you're not 100% sure. And I think based on that last outing with him, one more, and you hope that it's clean and he feels good when he recovers, and then you get him back in the big league rotation.
Speaking of injuries, George Springer's still out, but his house is for sale. So either he bought a new house in Toronto or he's moved into the hospital.
Well, hopefully he hasn't moved into the hospital, but he is a free agent at the end of the year, right? And I'm no real estate expert. Don't take real estate advice from me. But if he feels like, hey, I may not be in Toronto next year, let's go ahead and get a head start on getting this thing on the market. That's probably the way that he would look at it. I feel bad for some of these guys, right? You put your house on the market, it becomes news. Oh, this guy's not happy here. He doesn't want to be here. No, I think he's just probably trying to play the market smart, buy himself a little bit more time. If for some reason he ends up back in the Jays uniform next year, you can figure it out from there.
CJ, who in this Jays lineup right now would you say that the team, let's not talk about the pitching because the pitching staff is
Mm.
just an unfortunate list of injuries and an unfortunate list of injuries and Hoffman. And from an offensive side of things, it seems as though like with recent emergence of Nathan Lucas, like things seem to be
Mhm.
picking up for everyone. Everyone's contributing once again. Who is the concern in this lineup right now or what position perhaps?
So look at the last couple of weeks, the offense has been really good, doing what they kind of do, hitting for average at 283. The OPS is nearly 750 as a group. The one guy that maybe hasn't been contributing as much, and I think you had to expect this to some degree, is Akamoto, right? He is going to go through these waves at the big league level, one, because of the adjustments that he's had to make and everything else that comes along with it. And then two, facing all of these pitchers that he's never faced with the best stuff that he's seen consistently, right? You've seen good stuff in MPB, of course. There's some really good pitchers. It just doesn't run nearly as deep. And so now you're seeing that. You're seeing bigger arms coming to the games earlier than he is certainly used to seeing in Asia. And so that's where the adjustment comes for him. So it's not to say that you're worried. It's that you're willing to kind of ride the roller coaster that comes along with this, right? We see what's going on with Chicago and their guy coming over from Japan, and he's absolutely crushing it right now. But it's a weird thing, right? It's low average, it's power. There's going to be some up and down there. It is part of the process. It's rare, I think, when you get especially a hitter that comes over from Asia, whether it be MPB or whether KBO, that they go wire to wire where they're really consistent. We know how hard that is
Mhm.
anyway
Yeah.
for any big leaguer to do, but especially when you're coming to a foreign country. So that's the one thing as you watch, start maybe, and I can do this as well. You start looking at how they're pitching him. What are the trends? Have they found something that he is not particularly good at? Fastballs up and in. He can't hit the big curveball, whatever that might be, and then seeing how the adjustments go. I mean, you have the resources now in the big leagues to be able to make those adjustments a little bit quicker because of the data, because of the way they can prepare you. Those are the things I would keep an eye on. But he's the one guy right now where the last couple of weeks that have struggled here a little bit. But again, I think you got to ride this thing out with him.
Baseball players are all about normalcy and routine, and the Blue Jays lineup is anything but. Does that drive a team nuts when they don't know what to expect, or do they see it as, oh, this is a fresh look every single game?
Not anymore. I mean, I think everyone would like that. There was a time certainly where there may be some pushback on inconsistency, but go back, gosh, probably a decade or so now. Joe Madden started kind of putting this on the map and setting the table for guys, even for good teams. Now, Tampa always got away when he was there with doing things a little bit differently, and because they felt like they had to, and they played more matchups than anybody. It's why we kind of limited what we do in September with rosters. And Kevin Cash was really guilty of this as well. They bring up all 40 guys, and it'd be a different lineup every single day, and it would be really difficult to prepare for. Now it's about platoon matchups, which I think are important. We do it here. Basically, if the Braves are facing a lefty, Ozzy Albies is batting third. If not, he's batting sixth. But there is a little bit more consistency. I know what you're talking about. One, it's been a couple of injuries, right? It was Varsho, it was Lucas having to miss a game or two here. So you have to adjust accordingly. I think basically, Vladdy's the one guy in this lineup who you can pencil in every single time, let him hit third, and he deserves to do that. And you probably don't adjust very often, but it has changed in the game. And while, yes, I think guys would tell you very secretly, I wish I hit in the same spot every day and knew that I didn't have to look at the lineup card when I came in. But that doesn't happen like that anymore. And it could be real specific to either how you're doing at the time, probably more specific to who are you facing that night, and even more specific to how the bullpen lines up. That's the other thing that I'm listening to more and more managers talk about is where the bullpen is, whether it's when you're facing a team like the Arizona Diamondbacks who don't have a single lefty. That may change the way you do things. You may stack some lefties maybe higher in the lineup because you're not concerned about later in the game. And the opposite could be true. We just got done playing the Washington Nationals here with the Braves. They have 4 lefties in their bullpen. So that's a little bit different on how you're going to manage your lineup, when you're actually going to use your pinch hitters. If you are playing platoon baseball, right, you want to get a guy out of there in the 6th or 7th, but he might have a chance to come up again in the 9th. What does your bullpen look like? And we're going to set our lineup accordingly. So a lot of different factors. And I do think guys will pretty much always say the right thing in front of a camera, in front of a microphone. But yes, they would like to hit in the same spot every day if they could.
CJ, I don't think a lot of people expected the Guardians to roll into Toronto in first place in their division, but let's be honest, that's mostly because
Hmm.
Detroit had somewhat of a slow start and they're picking things up now. But talk about this Guardians team that they're going to be facing this weekend and then expand out from there because they have big interdivision series coming up against the Red Sox and then of course the Rays 3 series from now.
Yeah, feel good about the Red Sox. I mean, they just have not been a good team offensively. I know there's some pitching issues on the Blue Jays side, but when you get there, there's going to be an opportunity, right? They just lose that series to the New York Yankees. They didn't make the moves they wanted to make this offseason offensively, and it is starting to show up now here in Boston. So they have their issues. The Guardians are always known as this team that's going to do the little things right. So when you sit here and you kind of look at this team, I mean, as a group right now, this is kind of wild. They're hitting 228. How would they a first place team or have been right near the top when they're not hitting particularly well? It's because they don't really miss their opportunities. They take advantage of base running opportunities. They do a really nice job of paying attention to detail. Doesn't mean you have to be fast, but they're always looking to take the extra base. They're always seem like they have a pretty good feel where are the outfielders lined up. How is the infield lined up? Do I have a chance to go first or third based on those things? Right? They do those little things really well. This is a team that has pushed their bullpen really hard over the last couple of years, but still seems to be getting pretty good results. It was always a pitching team first, and then you kind of hope you could hit enough. Now they're playing still on the margins, but doing it a little bit differently. And they got a little bit of a different lineup. You know, Chase DeLauder's an interesting guy, got off to a great start, has slowed down a little bit. They do play really good defense. Stephen Kwan, a little bit more in center field now these days, has always been a plus defender, one of the best defenders in left field. They slide him over to center a little bit more. We got to see them, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now, but they're a pesky team. They're one of those teams that you sit there and you look up and down the line. You don't see a lot of stardom. You don't see a high payroll. You know, outside of Jose Ramirez and Stephen Kwan, there's not a lot of recognizable names for your average baseball fan. But you got to be very careful that you don't assume because of that that they're not a good team. They're scrappy and they do the little things right.
This next question we're going to archive and see if it does come true because I learned something during the Angel series that Kurt Suzuki, the former player, is now a manager. Did not know that. So, of the current batch of big league players, who do you say 100% certainty will be a manager?
Ooh, that's a good question. So it's funny because it might even be the same team with Travis Darno, who is right now the backup catcher with the Angels.
Former
I
Blue
think
Jay.
he is. Yeah, he's always been a guy that has been highly well respected. I asked him that question a couple of years ago when he was with the Braves, and he kind of tiptoed around it. But you read between the lines, and you get the feel that he might be a guy. It's an interesting time, though, right? I mean, we had basically 10 managerial changes from last opening day. An interim stayed in Colorado, and then there was 9 hires around the league, and it was all over the place. I mean, you went from a guy in Tony Vitello who comes from college with zero pro experience at any level, gets the opportunity to lead the Giants, who want to be contenders. Then you get a guy like Walt Weiss, like we have here in Atlanta, who was a longtime big leaguer, previous manager, longtime bench coach, right? I mean, and everywhere in between. Again, we just got done seeing the Nationals. I don't know if you've seen a game with them yet. Their manager's 33 years old. Like, and he came kind of out of nowhere, Blake Buter, and he seems like he's doing a pretty good job. Like that team can flat out hit, and you can see he's capable, but it's just one of those things that was not on anybody's radar. So it's not like it used to be. But I think more often than not, you're going to look at your catchers, you're going to look at your backup guys. Sometimes your starters. I had this conversation about JT Realmuto the other day with the Phillies. He's now on the IL. He just signed a 3-year deal, so he's a little bit further away. But he kind of looks like he's cutting that mold where he could be one of those. But more often than not, it ends up kind of being your catchers. But it's also now, I mean, guys that are coming out of nowhere that you had never heard of that get these jobs. So it's a much more difficult thing to do. I will say this: I don't know if you know this. I obviously didn't know Suzuki was even managing. He's only on a 1-year deal, and which is never happens. You never
With
give a
that
new
team?
manager, with a 1-year deal. Like you start your career as a lame duck manager.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of that before, but that's apparently what the situation is with the Angels.
Okay, CJ, I have a similar version of Dan's question to you. Who do you see in the game right now that will find their way into the broadcast booth and eventually Tom
Oh.
Brady your job from you?
Yeah, I know it, man. It's the upside of these guys making so much money now is that hopefully they don't want to take our jobs. Listen, it's for me and the career that I had, it was lengthy, but it was nothing spectacular. So I know I got to work hard. I know I have to be good at my job in order to hold it down. And then people get really excited about the big names. There's some good ones out there. I mean, you're starting to see guys. What I've noticed, I did the NBC game on Sunday. And I did it with Anthony Rizzo was in our booth. It was me and John Kruk, and then Anthony Rizzo was kind of down in the dugout. In the well, and he was really good, right? He's recently retired. This group of players is much more media savvy. It comes down to who wants to do it. Because the one thing you can't do, and you guys, we've all been around this business now long enough, is that some guys just show up and think they can be them, right? And it's like, hey, I'm me, and I had a great career, and you can story tell, and that's going to get dry real fast, right? So you still got to want to be able to do the work if you're trying to do a team job, right? Like I do about 120 games a year. Now, if you're looking for a national job, it's going to be a lot less, and you can kind of be that guy a little bit more. And then on the national side, they kind of push for the bigger name, the bigger storytelling, and they like those kinds of things. But it's a good question. I have to dig in and look around rosters a little bit more. But there are times when I find myself interviewing a guy, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy absolutely could do it if he wants to. But there's definitely some good guys out there. It's just a matter of want.
Joey Gallo. I just say his because it popped up on my Instagram feed where he's looking at his picture that the MLB The Show put up for him, and
that's right.
He seems like an entertaining individual who I think he could do that.
Yeah, he's fun. He's quirky. I haven't kept up with, but I know he's been trying to pitch because he was a really good pitcher in high school, was an upper 90s guy. And now that the batting part of his career had kind of taken its course, or run its course, he was trying to pitch. I don't know if anybody ever signed him, but he was trying to pitch. But yeah, no, national wise, like if you want a personality, I know he's still got a little bit of ways to go. I think like a Dansby Swanson type, right? He's got the hair, he's handsome, everyone loves him. So there's some guys out there.
What about Munenori Kawasaki? Let's bring him back and have him in the broadcast booth because that could only be fun.
Yeah. So I actually, I don't, you probably know this. He was my shortstop when I was in Japan. So we were teammates for a couple of years there, and he is personality plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He was the same quirky guy. You know what else was interesting when I think about him, man? So we would mostly take the bullet train everywhere, but every once in a while we would fly. And when we would fly, I mean, he would get like the Justin Bieber treatment in the airport. Like, cause it didn't like, at least back then, there wasn't as much like security and kind of making things easier for us. Like you weren't completely mixing in with the public and, getting in line and checking your bag, but you were walking through the airport, and these teenage girls, man, they were tracking him down like crazy when we were in Japan. But yeah, personality plus, man, that cramped banana comment and interview still making its way around the internet. But yeah, he was a lot of fun, man. He was a good player too, but he was a huge personality. I would not be surprised if he was doing it actually over there, at least to some degree, because they love him.
And we love you, CJ. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.